Now, with the study of Himalayan art, we actually have a huge number of publications, huge amount of reading material in Tibetan language, in Sanskrit, and we have a huge amount in English, and really, not just dozens, but scores, if not possibly 100 coffee table books. So there's a tremendous amount of reading material out there on Himalayan art. But often it's very specific, such as it's an exhibition. It's a museum catalog for an exhibition. And then it's very specific often to those objects which are being shown or to a very narrow topic. Then it could be an art catalog put out by an art dealer, and again, it's just highlighting the objects that are in the marketplace, international marketplace. Then we have scholarly works where they try and talk about style, and then you have different approaches. You can have like a University of Vienna, very old school kind of art historical approach, or it could be French, or it could be a North American approach to how you understand styles and chronology and the development of art, sculpture and painting. Now, with Himalayan art, we have to be more targeted. We have to be more specific. So let's say we're looking at early works, early paintings. Now Jane Casey's just come out with a new publication called Taklung, Painting: A Study in Chronology, and that was published by Serindia last year. And it's a massive 2-volume affair. It's not necessarily a light reading since the books are so heavy. Now, we have other books, but you know what? We don't have a lot. We don't really have a lot of publications that talk about early art. So what we're going to talk about right now is another publication called Painted Images of Enlightenment, Early Tibetan Thankas, 1050 to 1450. And this was done by Steve Kossak and published by Marg Publications out of Mumbai. And that was back in 2010. Now, this is really nice. It's a very refreshing, very different way of looking at it because Steve Kossak has his own ideas about how you understand and how you date art, and he likes to look at patterns in clothing, and he likes to look at tantric jewelry. He likes to look at design elements specifically, which is very interesting because some people, they look at overall composition. Other people look at portraits. There's a number of different approaches that different scholars have. But this book has just tremendous art in it. In terms of, I think prior to this book, a lot of the art was not even published. You wouldn't have seen it before. So this book was important, not just for the unique approach that Steve Kossak takes, but because of the high quality art that is represented in the publication. So the book Painted Images of Enlightenment, Early Tibetan Thankas by Steve Kossak, Marg Publications. Chapter 1 deals with early Pala painting style in Tibet. Chapter 2, lineage, painting, and portraiture. Then he moves on to early Sakya patrons and Newar artists. So that's really 13th to 15th century. And we have a lot of examples in museums and private collections around the world. Then we move on to textile patterns, 11th to 14th century. And those are in portrait Thankas. Now, they're not just Taklung. They're Taklung, Drikung, Kadampa, Sakya, all different types of portraits. Then we have sartorial and pictorial styles in 14th, 15th century. Following chapter is the ever-changing styles of tantric jewelry in Tibetan painting. And I also find this fascinating because some things that Tibetans in the last 100 years think are important, we just don't find in art from early period, and specifically Z beads, these black and white or brown and white oblong beads with right angles, right angle patterns of black and white beads, almost checkered in some cases. Then the The seventh chapter is on Tibetan Thankas, their history and provenance reconsidered. And then the last chapter is Tibetan-style paintings from the Karakota. Karakota, this is really the far north areas of Tibet and Western China. And then all of this is followed up by a bibliography and an index. So this book, I don't know how easy or how hard it is to acquire, but good libraries should have it. And who knows, eventually there'll be probably a PDF available of this, a digital version. So, Painted Images of Enlightenment, Early Tibetan Thankas. It's one of very few books that we have. We have, as I mentioned, we have Taklung Painting, A Study in Chronology by Jane Casey, published last year. We have Sacred Visions, Early Paintings from Central Tibet, again by Stephen Kossak and again by Jane Casey, and that was done back in 1998 for a Metropolitan Museum of Art exhibition. Then we have Dating Tibetan Art, and that's out of Verlaka, Wiesbaden. And that has a number of different articles in it that's very important for dating early art, and it also represents one of the earliest Nyingma paintings that we have in it. I think I've done a video on that painting as well already. Nyingma Mandala from the tradition of Nyangro Nyima Oser. So anyway, Painted Images of Enlightenment, well worthwhile if you're interested in early Himalayan, early Tibetan paintings. So you can press the like button, you can subscribe, and you can also make a donation directly on the homepage of Himalayan Art Resources. And even more importantly, you should join HAR on Patreon. HAR on Patreon is where we put longer videos, we put longer essays, we put new material that comes available, private collections, museums, auction house offerings, material that has not previously been up on HAR. Will go on Patreon first. Also, we take requests for videos off of Patreon first, because Patreon is where the Himalayan Art Resources donors are. That's where they reside. That's where they go, and they are the individuals that make it possible for us to offer what we do without advertisements, without charging, and to be able to keep Himalayan Art Resources online always, permanently, and going into the future. Thank you.